The first time Serena Blake noticed Caleb Ward, he was kneeling on the floor beneath a $200 million glass skybridge, staring at a bolt nobody else could see moving. Above him, the bridge stretched between the two towers of the new Avalon Crest building, 42 stories over the city, clear glass underfoot, brushed steel rails on both sides, and sunlight pouring through the atrium like the whole structure had been built for magazines. Below it, reporters had gathered near the marble lobby. Investors stood beside a ribbon the color of champagne. A string quartet played softly beneath a wall of living plants. The mayor was due in 17 minutes. Caleb did not look at any of them. He was crouched near the east anchor plate, one hand resting on the floor, the other holding an old laser level with blue tape around its handle. The device projected a thin red line across the steel bracket where the bridge met the tower wall. Next to his knee lay a small notebook filled with measurements written in pencil. His 8-year-old daughter Ava stood behind a temporary barrier near the service corridor, gripping the straps of her backpack with both hands. She did not like heights. Even standing inside the atrium made her look toward the floor too often, as if making sure it still existed. Serena crossed the lobby in a pale gray suit with 3 executives behind her and a security manager walking too fast to look calm. She had been smiling for a television camera moments earlier. Now her smile was gone. "Why is maintenance inside the ceremony zone?" she asked. The security manager pointed toward Caleb. "He says there's movement in the east anchor." Serena stopped. The bridge above them gleamed in perfect silence. "There is not movement in the east anchor," she said. "The bridge passed final inspection this morning." Caleb looked up. The bridge passed while no one was on it. One of the structural consultants behind Serena gave a short breath through his nose, almost a laugh. Serena's eyes moved to the old laser level in Caleb's hand. "And you found this with that?" Caleb stood slowly. He was 38, broad through the shoulders, tired around the eyes, dressed in a navy maintenance shirt with dust on the sleeves and a name patch that read Ward. He did not look like someone who belonged at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. He looked like someone who had spent the morning crawling behind access panels and listening to buildings breathe. "The bolt shifts when the wind load hits the west side," he said. The consultant shook his head. "That assembly was torque-checked yesterday." Caleb looked at him. "Then it loosened today." Serena's expression sharpened. "Mr. Ward, we have city inspectors here, structural engineers here, the press downstairs, and investors waiting to cross that bridge in less than 20 minutes. I am not stopping the opening because a maintenance technician thinks he saw a bolt move." A few people nearby looked away, not because they agreed with her, because they knew exactly where power stood in the room. Ava heard every word. Caleb looked once toward his daughter, then back at the anchor plate. "It is moving," he said. Serena stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to make it colder. "This building has been inspected, certified, signed, sealed, and cleared. Do not create panic because you misread a shadow." Caleb's voice stayed calm. "Shadows do not click." 6 minutes later, the first group would step onto the glass bridge for the opening photograph. 12 people would be smiling above the atrium when the same east anchor gave a sound so small almost no one heard it. Caleb Ward would. He would run through security, stop a billionaire investor mid-step, and hit the emergency floor lock before the bridge shifted half an inch beneath their feet. And when engineers opened the wall behind the east anchor, Serena Blake would stand in silence staring at the cracked support plate he had warned them about, realizing the man she dismissed had seen the failure before her entire team did. Avalon Crest was designed to be the most photographed building in the city. 2 towers rose from a shared base of white stone, black glass, and polished steel. The North Tower held luxury offices. The South Tower held private residences priced for people who wanted to look down on the skyline from rooms no one else could enter. Between them, on the 42nd floor, the Skybridge connected the executive lounge to a private event space with a transparent floor, transparent walls, and a view straight down through the atrium. It was unnecessary in the way luxury often is. That was exactly the point. Serena Blake had built her reputation on turning unnecessary things into symbols people paid for. At 34, she had taken over Blake Meridian Development after her uncle was forced out by debt, delays, and a lawsuit involving another project. In 6 years, she had rebuilt the company, beaten 2 larger competitors for city contracts, and made herself the face of a new kind of urban real estate. Clean, vertical, expensive, and impossible to ignore. Avalon Crest was supposed to prove she had arrived. Every detail of the opening had been arranged for control: drone shots at noon, mayor crossing at 12:15, investors at 12:18, press interviews at 12:30, social media clips from the bridge by 12:45, the city skyline behind them, the transparent floor below them, a perfect symbol of confidence suspended above open space. The bridge had passed inspection that morning. That was the sentence everyone repeated. The engineers said it. The city inspector said it. The construction director said it. Serena said it often enough that people stopped hearing the uncertainty hidden inside the words. Caleb Ward did not. On paper, Caleb was a building systems technician hired 6 weeks earlier to support final turnover. He handled mechanical rooms, emergency lighting, access panels, fire doors, pressure sensors, and the hundreds of small problems that appear when a building moves from construction site to expensive promise. Before that, he had been a structural inspection specialist. Not a famous one, not a partner, not the type of man who sat in client meetings with polished shoes and a laser pointer. Caleb had worked in the quiet parts of projects: anchor bolts, expansion joints, load transfer points, stairwell welds, brackets hidden behind beautiful walls. He had a gift for seeing small movement before it became visible to anyone else. That gift had ended his old career. 4 years earlier, a pedestrian canopy outside a luxury hotel had shown tiny vibration irregularities after wind load. Caleb recommended immediate closure. The developer objected. His supervisor adjusted the report to say the issue required monitoring. Caleb refused to sign. The company removed him from the project. 3 weeks later, part of the canopy failed during a storm. No one died, but 2 people were badly injured. Caleb testified during the investigation. The company called him unstable. The developer called him bitter. Other firms stopped returning his calls. By then, his wife Lee was already sick. A blood infection after a routine procedure turned into organ failure with a speed that still made Caleb wake some nights expecting the phone to ring. Ava was 4 when Lee died. She remembered her mother's voice better than her face, which broke Caleb in ways he never said out loud. After that, titles stopped mattering. He needed work close to home. He needed health insurance. He needed hours that let him pick Ava up from school. Building systems work paid enough if he swallowed pride and did not argue too loudly. He swallowed pride badly. Avalon Crest hired him because the turnover team was short, and one old superintendent named Frank Bell knew Caleb's history. Frank told the hearing manager, "He notices things before they become expensive." The hearing manager wrote dependable in the file and moved on. Caleb began noticing the bridge 3 days before the ceremony. Not the glass, not the rails, the east anchor. The Skybridge used a complex support system designed to allow slight building movement between the 2 towers. Tall buildings flex, wind pushes, temperature shifts steel. A bridge that connects 2 towers cannot behave like stone. It has to move carefully, predictably, within limits. On Monday afternoon, while checking emergency lights near the service corridor, Caleb heard a click from behind the east wall after a strong wind gust hit the west face of the north tower. It was soft. Too soft for most people to register. But it had the wrong timing. He stopped and waited for the next gust. 23 seconds later, it came again. Clicking. Not loud, not dramatic, but metal does not click in a finished support assembly for no reason. On Tuesday, he brought his old laser level. It was not official inspection equipment. It was a tool he had kept for years, heavy, scarred, dependable. He set it near the anchor access seam and marked the red line across the bracket edge with pencil. During still air, nothing moved. During wind load, 1 point shifted less than a millimeter. Less than a millimeter is nothing to people who do not understand structures. To Caleb, less than a millimeter was a sentence beginning. He wrote down the measurement. On Wednesday morning, Ava's school called at 6:40. A heating problem had closed the building for the day. The neighbor who usually watched her was visiting her sister. Frank had already told Caleb everyone needed to be on site for the ceremony. Caleb almost called out anyway. Ava stood in the kitchen with her backpack on, and her hair only half brushed. "I can come," she said. "You should not have to spend the day in a construction building." "It's not construction now. You said it's fancy." "That doesn't make it better." "Do they have snacks?" He looked at her. She gave a tiny shrug. He brought her because life with one parent is often a collection of imperfect solutions, arranged carefully enough to survive the day. Ava sat in the service corridor near the lobby with a notebook, colored pencils, and strict instructions to stay behind barriers. She drew the 2 towers first, then the bridge. Then, after watching her father check the anchor plate for the 3rd time, she drew one tiny bolt with eyes and a worried mouth. "What is that?" Frank asked when he passed. "The bolt Dad keeps looking at." Frank looked toward Caleb. "That bad?" Ava shrugged. "If he keeps looking, yes." At 10:30, Caleb asked Frank to pull the inspection documentation. At 10:45, he found the torque report. The values were correct. At 11:05, he checked the access seam again and saw the pencil mark shift under wind. At 11:22, he requested a hold on the bridge crossing. Frank took the concern to the construction director, who took it to the structural consultant, who took it to Serena, because nobody wanted to be the person who stopped the event without her name attached. By the time the warning reached Serena, it had become smaller. Possible minor anchor concern from maintenance. That was how dangerous information gets cleaned before it is killed. Serena came down expecting to remove friction from the schedule. She did not expect Caleb to hold his ground. After she ordered the ceremony to continue, Caleb was told to clear the zone. Frank looked apologetic. Caleb did not blame him. Blame wasted time. He went to Ava. "We may need to leave quickly." "Are you fired?" "Not yet." "Do you want my granola bar?" He looked at her little face, serious and brave, and already too familiar with adult damage. "No bug." She pulled it from her backpack anyway. "Just in case." At 12:10, the mayor arrived. The lobby filled with controlled excitement. Cameras shifted toward the elevators that would take the first group up to the bridge. Serena stood beside a billionaire investor named Conrad Vail, who had financed nearly 20% of the project and liked appearing in photographs where other people looked grateful. The mayor joked about courage and glass floors. People laughed. Caleb stood near the service corridor, watching the upper bridge through the atrium. He should have left. He did not. Ava stood beside him, close enough that her sleeve touched his hand. "Is it still moving?" she whispered. "I don't know." "Can you see from here?" "No." "Can you hear?" He looked up. The bridge waited in the light, beautiful and empty. "Maybe." The first elevator opened on the 42nd floor. 12 people stepped out. Serena, the mayor, Conrad Vail, 2 investors, 2 executives, 1 city official, 1 photographer, one safety coordinator, and 2 reporters selected for access. They moved toward the bridge entrance while cameras below tilted upward. The transparent floor caught the light. The crowd in the lobby clapped. Serena walked first. Caleb saw the moment load enter the span. Not failure, not even visible movement, but the east side gave a small response that did not match the west. His body recognized it before his mind named it. Then he heard the sound. Click. From the atrium floor, 42 stories below, through glass, voices, music, and applause, he heard the same wrong sound. Ava felt him change. Dad. The group was halfway onto the bridge. Caleb moved. Security stepped in front of him at the service access door. Sir, you can't. Caleb did not shove him. He sidestepped with the economy of a man who had worked around bodies, ladders, panels, and danger for years. He hit the stairwell door and climbed the first flight before the guard had finished calling after him. Frank saw him go and understood. He grabbed his radio. Hold the bridge now. Upstairs, the safety coordinator heard the message and hesitated because the instruction did not come from the approved person. That hesitation cost 5 seconds. 5 seconds is long enough for the second click. On the bridge, Serena stopped. Conrad Vale laughed. Is this the part where you tell us it's perfectly safe? Before Serena could answer, the glass under her right heel gave the tiniest shift. Not a break, not a crack, a movement so small it might have been imagination if every instinct in her body had not reacted first. The mayor looked down. What was that? The east rail trembled. Cameras below kept recording. Then Caleb burst through the 42nd floor service door, breathing hard, face pale with focus. Off the bridge, he said. Security behind him shouted. Serena turned, furious and afraid at once. Mr. Ward. Off the bridge now. Conrad Vale stepped forward. You are interrupting. Caleb crossed the distance, reached past the safety coordinator, and hit the emergency floor lock panel. Amber lights flashed along the bridge. Magnetic access gates snapped shut at both ends. The floor system entered hold mode, freezing movement and triggering a building-wide alert. The lobby below erupted. Reporters shouted. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Ava ran to the barrier and looked up, hands pressed together. On the bridge, Serena stood perfectly still. The structure shifted again. This time, everyone on it felt it. No one argued after that. Evacuation took 3 minutes and felt like 30. Each person stepped backward slowly under Caleb's instructions. No rushing, no sudden crowd movement. Hands on rail, one at a time. Conrad Vale's face had gone gray. The mayor stopped smiling. Serena remained until the last investor was off, then stepped back through the gate with her jaw set so tightly it looked painful. Caleb did not look relieved. He looked toward the east anchor wall. Open it, he said. The structural consultant arrived sweating through his collar. You cannot order an invasive inspection in the middle of. Serena cut him off. Open it. He blinked. She said it again. Open it. The access wall behind the east anchor had been finished with custom panels designed to hide the structural assembly. 2 workers removed them under the eyes of every important person in the building. Behind the wall, the anchor plate was visible, bolted into a steel transfer frame that disappeared into the tower core. At first glance, it looked fine. That was the trap. Caleb placed the laser level on the floor and aligned the red line across the plate edge. Frank stood beside him. Serena stood behind them with the mayor, Conrad Vale, the consultant, and 3 cameras held back by security. A wind gust pressed against the building. The red line shifted. Barely. But this time, everyone watching saw it. The consultant said nothing. Caleb pointed to the upper left bolt. Remove the cover washer. A technician did. The crack was behind it. Not a wide break, not a dramatic split. A hairline fracture running through the edge of the anchor plate toward the welded support behind the bracket. The bolt had not failed. The plate around it had begun to. The movement was the structure redistributing stress each time the bridge loaded unevenly. The consultant leaned closer. His face changed. Serena saw that change and understood before anyone explained. "How bad?" she asked. The consultant swallowed. "We need to unload the bridge immediately and perform full structural review." "That is not an answer," Caleb answered without looking away from the crack. "If the crossing continued today, maybe nothing happened. Maybe the plate held through the ceremony. Maybe it failed next month during an event when 40 people were on it." Conrad Vale snapped, "Maybe." Caleb turned to him. "That word is why I stopped you." The room went quiet. Serena looked through the open access wall at the defect, hidden behind a building she had sold as perfect. All her schedules, all her confidence, all her cameras. All her money had come down to a crack small enough to hide behind a washer, and a man she had nearly removed from the room. Ava reached the 42nd floor with Frank's assistant a few minutes later. She ran to Caleb, then stopped because the adults were still staring at the open wall. "Dad." He turned immediately and crouched. "I'm okay." "Did it move?" "Yes." "Did they listen?" Caleb looked at Serena. This time Serena answered. "Not soon enough." Ava looked at her, with the directness children bring into rooms adults have complicated. "You should listen to him sooner." No one spoke. Serena lowered herself slightly, not fully kneeling, but enough to show the answer was not for the room. "Yes," she said, "I should have." The ceremony was canceled. The press release called it a precautionary structural review. That phrase lasted less than 20 minutes before footage leaked of Caleb running onto the 42nd floor and hitting the emergency lock. By evening, every news outlet in the city had a different headline. Some called him a hero. Some called the building unsafe. Some asked how a glass bridge passed inspection with a cracked anchor plate. The board called Serena 14 times. Investors demanded a controlled narrative. Conrad Vale threatened to withdraw unless someone could explain why his first walk across the bridge nearly became a disaster. Serena did not go to the boardroom immediately. She went to the service corridor where Caleb sat with Ava on a bench. Ava was eating the granola bar she had saved for him. Caleb was staring at the floor, shoulders finally showing the weight of what had almost happened. Serena stopped a few feet away. "Mr. Ward." He looked up. "I owe you an apology." He did not help her by saying it was fine. It was not fine. "You dismissed the warning," he said. "Yes." "You called it panic." "Yes." "You said I misread a shadow." Serena closed her eyes for half a second. "Yes." Ava leaned against her father's arm. Serena looked at her. "And I did that in front of your daughter." Caleb's voice changed. "That is the part that matters most to me." "I know." He looked at her. "No, you know now." The sentence landed cleanly, because there was nothing in it but truth. Serena accepted it. "I am sorry," she said. Ava watched her carefully. "My dad sees little things." Serena nodded. "Yes, he does. People think little means not important." Serena looked toward the sealed bridge doors. Today, little was everything. The investigation lasted 12 days. Once the east anchor was fully exposed, the defect became clear. A subcontracted plate had been manufactured with a microfracture near the bolt path. The flaw had not appeared under standard inspection because the plate remained within tolerance during static testing. Under actual building movement and partial live load, the fracture began to open. The bridge itself was not badly designed. The installation was not broadly defective. But one hidden flaw in one critical plate had turned confidence into danger. Caleb's measurements became the first documented warning. The old laser level, the pencil marks, the repeated observation under wind load, all of it entered the report. The structural consultant avoided Caleb for 2 days, then finally found him near the lower mechanical room. "You were right." Caleb tightened a valve and said, "The building was right." The consultant frowned. "What does that mean?" "It moved, I noticed." "That is a very irritating kind of humility." Caleb almost smiled. "It's not humility." "What is it?" "Habit." On the 13th day, Serena called Caleb into the executive conference room on the 40th floor. Ava came too because school had dismissed early for parent conferences, and because Serena had said there was a chair for her if Caleb wanted to bring her. That detail did not erase anything. It did matter. Around the table sat Serena, Frank, the structural consultant, legal counsel, 2 board members, the head of development, and the chief operating officer. The atmosphere had the polished tension of expensive people trying to decide how much truth they could afford. Serena began before anyone else could shape the room. The Avalon Crest Bridge did not fail because Mr. Ward stopped the crossing. It might have failed later because the rest of us did not stop sooner. The board member at the far end shifted. "We should be careful with that phrasing." Serena looked at him. "That is me being careful." Caleb sat silently. Serena continued. "I want to establish an independent building movement and structural response team for all Blake Meridian properties under final turnover. Mr. Ward will lead it." Legal counsel looked up. "Mr. Ward is currently classified as building system support." "Then reclassify him." The chief operating officer cleared his throat. "With what authority?" Serena turned to Caleb. "What authority would have stopped today earlier?" Caleb was quiet for a moment. "Temporary closure authority for life safety concerns supported by repeatable observation. Written override if leadership disagrees. Name, reason, timestamp. No quiet edits." One board member shook his head. "That could shut down events over minor concerns." Caleb looked at him. "Yes." The board member blinked. Serena said, "Add it." The chief operating officer leaned forward. "Serena, we need to consider the business implications." She looked through the conference room glass toward the bridge, still sealed behind temporary barriers. "I am." Caleb accepted the role after 3 days and several changes to the written policy. He did not want a title built from panic. He did not want to be used as public proof of safety while private pressure stayed the same. He insisted on procedure strong enough to survive the next deadline. Serena signed every change. The bridge reopened 9 weeks later. The ceremony was smaller. No string quartet, fewer investors, more engineers. The mayor returned anyway, joking that he preferred bridges with second opinions. The east anchor plate had been replaced, the west plate removed and checked, the support system scanned under live simulation, and movement sensors added at Caleb's recommendation. This time, Serena did not cross first. She asked Caleb to. He refused. "I don't belong in the photograph," he said. Ava pulled his sleeve. "Can we?" Caleb looked at her. "You hate heights." "I hate unsafe heights." Serena heard that and said nothing. Caleb took Ava's hand. They stepped onto the bridge together. The glass floor showed the atrium below, bright and dizzying. Ava held his hand so tightly it hurt. Halfway across, she stopped and looked down. "Still scary," she whispered. "Scary and unsafe are not the same thing." She nodded. Mom would have liked the view. Caleb's throat tightened. "Yes," he said, "she would have said it cost too much." Ava smiled. "Then taken pictures." They crossed without a sound except footsteps. No click. No shift. No hidden movement. On the other side, Ava looked back at Serena and gave a small thumbs up. The lobby applauded, not the loud, performative applause of the first ceremony, something quieter, more human. Serena crossed next. When she reached the middle, she stopped and looked down through the glass at the lobby below. For the first time since the project began, she did not think about the camera angle, the investors, the market value, or the skyline. She thought about one bolt moving less than a millimeter. She thought about Caleb running. She thought about Ava saying adults should listen sooner. After the reopening, Avalon Crest became successful, though not in the perfectly controlled way Serena had imagined. The story of the delayed bridge followed the building. At first, she hated that. Then clients began saying they trusted a place that admitted the problem and fixed it properly. A safety journal wrote about the new movement review policy. Other developers quietly asked for copies. Frank said the industry had accidentally learned something useful, which he considered the highest possible compliment. Caleb's new team started with 3 people and became 7 within a year. They inspected bridge anchors, rooftop equipment mounts, facade brackets, atrium supports, and anything else beautiful buildings like to hide behind finished walls. His old laser level remained in his kit even after Serena approved newer equipment. Ava put a small sticker on it that said "Tiny things matter." Caleb pretended not to notice. Everyone noticed. One evening, nearly a year later, Serena found Caleb and Ava on the 42nd floor after the building had quieted. The city glowed beyond the glass. Ava was doing homework at a lounge table while Caleb checked sensor logs from the bridge. Serena stopped near the entrance, still watching it. Caleb did not look up. That is the point of sensors. I mean personally. He glanced at the bridge. Yes. Serena stepped beside him. Does it bother you that people know it as the bridge that almost failed? Caleb thought about it. No. Why? Because almost is a good word when it is honest. Serena looked at him. That sounded like something people should put in reports and never did. Ava looked up from her homework. Almost means Dad got there in time. Serena smiled faintly. Yes, it does. Ava returned to her work. Serena lowered her voice. I read about the canopy case. Caleb's face closed slightly. I assumed you would. You were right then, too. Not soon enough for the people under it. No. He looked toward the bridge. Being right after damage is easy. People listen better when there is a photograph. Serena absorbed the sentence. That is what we are trying to change. He looked at her. You are trying. She nodded. I am. That was true enough for him. Months later, Blake Meridian adopted Caleb's review policy across all active projects. It irritated contractors, slowed turnover meetings, and saved the company twice in the first year. Once when a rooftop sign mount showed vibration under wind before it loosened. Once when a parking deck expansion joint shifted unevenly during a heat wave. Neither became news. Serena considered that the best possible outcome. Ava grew less afraid of the building over time, not fearless. Fearless was not the goal. Caleb told her fear was a tool when it made you pay attention and a cage when it made you stop living. She wrote that in her notebook and underlined tool. On the anniversary of the first canceled ceremony, Ava asked to visit the bridge. Caleb brought her after work. No cameras, no speeches, no investors. They stood in the middle of the glass span as sunset poured orange between the towers. Far below, people crossed the lobby like small moving dots. The bridge held steady beneath them. Ava looked down, then up. Dad. Yeah. Did you think about Mom when you ran? Caleb did not answer immediately. He had thought about many things: the click, the anchor, the people on the bridge, the child below, the old case, the canopy, the hospital, Lee's hand going cold in his. Ava behind the barrier watching adults decide whether her father's warning mattered. Yes, he said finally. Ava leaned against him. I think she would have yelled at them faster. Caleb laughed once, soft and surprised. She would have. They stood there until the light changed. Near the north entrance, Serena watched without interrupting. She had learned that some scenes did not need management. When she returned to her office, a message waited from a developer asking whether Blake Meridian could accelerate review on a new luxury hotel project by skipping a secondary anchor audit. The wording was polite. The meaning was familiar. Serena looked through the glass toward the bridge. Then she typed one sentence. No, we listen before we open. Below her, the city moved. Above it, the glass bridge held between two towers, no longer just a symbol of luxury, but a reminder. A reminder that certainty is not safety. A reminder that beautiful things still need honest inspection. A reminder that one bolt, one sound, 1 millimeter, one quiet father who refuses to look away can change the ending before anyone knows they are in danger. And somewhere in the maintenance office, Caleb Ward placed the old laser level back in its case, beside Ava's tiny sticker. Tiny things matter. He closed the lid gently, because he knew better than most people that sometimes they matter enough to save everyone.